Hi, my name is Trolls, and in this video we're going to take a deep look and listen and nitpick the entire new ambient guitar library from ADO. This is actually a complete upgrade and remake of the original ambient guitar, which was a beautiful library containing all these ambiences made with guitars and also a variety of multi-samples both with guitar and bass plug. We also have a master patch where you can combine them. But the bulk of the library is really based on ambiences, and they actually come in these different emotional categories. We have, if you look here under the individual presets here, we have a variety of bangs both with awe, horror, mystery. We got phrases, which are beautiful. I'll show you there's some great tricks you can use with them. We got rage and sadness as well. So there's a variety of bangs here that each have multiple ambiences inside of them. And one of the reasons for that is that we actually customized the user interface specifically for this library. If you notice here, we have something called A and B. These are different modules, if you will. So you can actually select as many ambiences as you want, and then you can have them pulsate between A and B. And that way you can sculpt and make entirely new ambiences that are much more complicated than normal ones. You can also have them trigger rhythmically, and you can actually control the rate they're going at as well. And I'll show that later in the demo. But before we get started, let me just point out that the demo we are going to be listening to is predominantly made with ambient guitar. You can see here there's a variety of different instances here. And then I'm also using a little bit from our new Aura exotic tonal percussion, and in particular the Kaiser drum, which is in the same family with the hang drum, or alien drum as we call it, but this almost has a more emotional quality to it, and we sample it in multiple ways, both with multi-samples and these new velocity-based loop samples. You can actually do really cool stuff that sounds incredibly alive with it as well, but we'll get deeper into that, and we also have another video where I'm demonstrating this entire library. But really, this demo is predominantly made with ambient guitar, a little bit of our Kaiser drum. We also have a little bit of our Edge EDM drums here, and then I'm using a little bit of Laurie Howe's beautiful studio solo vocals as well. But let's just listen to a demo and then we can start talking about the individual parts here. So as you can hear, there's a variety of things going on. It started actually, one of the first elements was actually this ambience down here. Let's see if we can find it. This guy right here. You can actually right click on all the different parameters down here and assign them to your CC. So you can see right now I'm controlling the filter over this ambience. Let me try another one here. Let's try another one again. Oh, oops. So you can see there's all these different ones here. It's gorgeous, beautiful textures. So let's say that, for example, that we like the one called Dreams here. And let's say that we want to have a little more fun with the filter. You can actually modulate the filter here in different ways. So if we activate it here, and let me try to adjust the filter. You have a variety of different filter options here. Let's try this one instead. And you can also randomize the filter. Let's try to do something here. And if you want, you can control the rate of the filter as well. And let's say that you want to put even a more sort of rhythmic texture. You can actually add the gate down here. Let's do that here. And then we're going to turn on the gate a little more. And it's just a beautiful way of creating more sort of elaborate textures. I'm just going to put that back here in its core state. Just to give an example here, you can use the gator, and this is awesome to assign to your CC as well. I actually love using both filter and gator. So if you have a composition where you sort of gradually want to go from ambience into rhythm, you can assign this to your CC. Just right click on it and move your controller, and then get these kind of effects. So it's a beautiful way of creating more sort of rhythmic control over the elements. Another example that we also listen to here is our pluck guitar. I think it's up here. Let me see. That. I think it's the ultimate fat sound. It's actually interesting if I compare it to the bass. I actually think the guitar almost has a fatter sound to it. And this is multi-sample, so super fat sound, and you can also combine them. We actually have an all patch here if you want to combine the different ones. But as I mentioned in the beginning, one of the really unique aspects about this library is the fact that you can actually select multiple ambiences and then you can pulse between them, so you can create these much more elaborate advanced textures. If you notice down here, you're going to see a stack symbol. When you click on it, it actually allows you to combine more than just one ambience. You can actually combine all 24 if you want. It's probably going to be a little too much, but let me play the vertigo here, and then let's try a couple of other ones to see if we can find something that sounds great together. Alright, so in this one we have a combination of 3 different ambiences. We got the vertigo, the gloom, and the hopeless here. I'm gonna assign gloom and hopeless to module B. So if you see here, it says A and B. Vertigo is associated to module A, that's the one we're currently looking at, and module B is over here, if you click over here. And you can actually create them differently. So if you want the pitch for the B section or the tone, the filter, whatever, different, you can do that. And the point is, when you go down here to our ABLVO, that you can actually morph between different ambiences here. So let's try to do something here. Let's see what it sounds like. And you can adjust the speed you want to go through here as well. So if you want the whole thing to be faster and sort of more extreme, let's try to do a little bit of randomization on here. Let's say that we had an original pattern that went sort of like this. You're going to see that the randomization is sort of going to mimic the original state and then slowly and gradually make it more chaotic. So let's try to do something crazy. I'm just going to click here. And then let's make sure the pulse is fast and then listen to it. And if that's not enough, you can add the gator as well here too. And if that is not enough, we can also start modulating the filter on top of it. So let's do that here. Now let's randomize it actually. And if that ain't enough, we can also go in here and add our textual convolution delays here. These are awesome. They allow you to create not just a normal delay, but actually a delay with a texture inside of it. And if that ain't enough, you can also go into our chaos effects here and let's add a little bit of phaser and flanger to it. So, you know, just to show you how quickly you can actually navigate around the library and do absolutely crazy and beautiful things. It doesn't have to be like this elaborate that you're using all the individual features, but there's really a lot that can be done with it. But sometimes you just want to keep like the core simple premise of a beautiful ambience just in its core state. And I think, you know, in this demo, I actually didn't use the super advanced features. I like sometimes just to use the more basic functions as well. But it is really useful, particularly if you're looking for a very quick way of creating sort of your more own individual type of sounds, that you can take the vertigo here, hold it down, and then just start listening to the other ones. Let's say the distance here is a little too loud for my taste. So you can dial down the volume, so it just has a little bit of that sort of more eerie nature. So you can see it's a super quick way of browsing and creating your own unique ambiences. So I think that's a super neat feature, and the whole design around this library is really for allowing you to create your own stuff right off the gate here. There's no additional pages actually happen if you are thinking about it. It's all happening just from the front page here. There's no additional super sub menus, anything. And that's really the charm of this library, how quickly you can go in and control stuff and just do wicked things with it. And speaking of wicked things, let me actually show you a little bit from our Kaiser drum here as well. So our Aura Studio Percussion series is based around the premise that you have both normal multisamples, just like this. But then we also recorded using velocity-based loop techniques. This is a patent-pending method that we've developed over quite some time, where we record every single key in the keyboard, and then we also do them in velocities and as loops. So you can do these beautiful things where everything is a little more alive. Like if I was to play 32 notes with multisamples, it would sound something like this. It just doesn't sound very good because you don't get the natural sound. When you hit with multisamples, it's always too hard, and you don't get the natural bleed of the sound going to the next note. But the way we got around that is to do separate recordings of that. We both have in the 8th notes and 16s and 32s here. So right now I'm just going to hold down a single key. And if you notice carefully, you can actually see that I was moving the dynamics here with my mod wheel. If I just bring the keyboard up here and just let's highlight the patch, you're going to see me move the mod wheel up and down. Let me just play the patch again and keep an eye on this, what's actually happening. I'm actually crossfading between different dynamic layers, so you can sculpt rhythms using this tool as well. It's awesome. And of course, you're not just enslaved to one key, you can actually play multiple keys together and over the entire span of the keyboard. Let me just show. Isn't that just awesomeness? This is what you cannot do with multisamples, and that's why we have to, particularly with percussion and faster playing things, you have to develop a completely new approach. So all our future percussion is actually using this methodology. It's an absolutely nightmare to develop and sample, but I think it's the way to go, because you want to have your multisamples like you're used to, but when it comes to a variety of percussion instruments that are played faster, particular stuff like hand drums and different styles of shakers and traditional drums, you have to do it this way. Otherwise, you just won't get those beautiful fine nuances of playing faster with it as well. I actually used another instrument as well called the allophone here. Let me just play it. This is another exotic, beautiful tonal percussion instrument here. And both the allophone, the kaisa, and a variety of other instruments is including in our aura tonal exotic percussion package, which is the follow-up to our first aura percussion called auxiliary, where we have 72 different instruments. We have shakers and pretty much virtually any traditional non-tonal hand percussion instrument you can think of, but this is the way to go in my opinion. And this library is deep, by the way. We recorded with different type of mallets, with brushes, bowed, different type of mallets here for the velocity-based loop stuff here. Let me just show it quickly actually. And it just goes to show, you know, with samples in the past, there's always like, okay, let's do this one thing and record it, but like, no, different mallets give a different impressions. So in this library, for example, with instruments that can take mallets, we actually have two different traditional mallets, felt ones, then we have brushed and bowed as well. So a variety of things you can choose from. And of course, this library also has a very similar set of controls as we have in the ambient guitars. So you have all the effects up here that you can modulate between and do all stuff. We actually also have microphone positions. There's 3 different mics. But anyway, this video is actually about ambient guitar. I highly encourage you to watch our other videos if you want to learn more about our exotic tonal percussion. But let's go back here to the demo and let me show you another little neat trick that I discovered. Let's go into the demo from this point on here and then try to pay particular attention to this guy down here. I call them star showers. It's almost like if you imagine this heavenly body of stars sort of surrounding your composition in an aura-like fashion. It's just beautiful. So this actually happened by accident. As you know, the ambient guitar contains all these different emotional categories, all horror, mystery, rage, and sadness, but we also have these phrases that are loop-based guitar phrases, but if you treat them the right way, they actually become these magical textures. Let me try to play this one in its sort of more generic form. Okay, so that's a nice generic guitar loop, but what I realized is that if you play them a couple of octaves above, you can actually create these awesome sort of star shimmers over your composition, and I love sort of dialing them in. If you watch the composition here, you can see they sort of go in and out and weave in and out of the composition, and they just add that beautiful gliss to the composition, sort of more light little flickers of light around it. Let me try to show you the trick here, and I'll just play it on a variety of different patches here because it actually works for no matter what you do it on. It's just an awesome little trick. So, you know, that's just me playing little silly things on the keyboard, and you create these awesome textures. And if you hold down your keys, so in this case, it's very simple. I just associated the filter. I just right click it here and associate it to my mod wheel. So I can control the filter, and just by holding it down, you can sort of sculpt it more in and out. So that's what I'm doing in the composition when you see these little mountains up here. Let me just show one more time. Isn't that just sonic perfection? And we have so many different ones. We actually have, again, multiple banks here if you really want to start getting into it. And you can also stack these and make them more complicated. But anyway, I hope this little introduction have given you an insight into our new ambient guitar library. I'm just going to mess a little more around here with the star shimmers and we'll wrap the video up. But this library is so capable. If you're really looking for that emotional guitar feeling, whether it's sort of post-apocalyptic or more movie-centric, or you want to have a beautiful ambience running in your ambient music, it's all here in the library, and there's so many little tricks. We also have a variety of different experimental presets in the library that allows you to even sort of explore further on the concept. And we've only scratched the surface of what can be done with this library. But let me just wrap it up here by creating a little more star shimmer and then play a little with the effects here and then wrap it up. But thanks for watching.